afternoon. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jess De Los Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Tuesday. So we're going to kick things off on a sour note here. The index unable to hold on to the 7,000 level. The local bourse plummeting 1.3% to 6,977.16. Earlier in the day, shares sank by as much as 1.5% here to 6,964, but somehow managed to pare back those losses, albeit very little. Those losses, though, in parallel really to declines seen across mall operators. That's after President Rodrigo Duterte, in his address last night, backtracked on an ITF resolution easing age restrictions, which allowed those above 10 years old to actually go outdoors. And mall operators, the likes of Mega World here, really experiencing that slump after the age restrictions were reimposed here. Mega World is a day's worst performer, down by as much as 5.5%, as you can see here, to 3 pesos and 80 centavos a shares. Shares of its parent, likewise Alliance Global, also slumped 3.8% to 9 pesos and 61 centavos a piece, but really pacing the declines in the index, mall giant SM Prime and its parent SM Investments. You're seeing here a chart of SM, at least for SM here. You have the conglomerate having a worse slip here than its property unit. SM is down by 1.7% to 1,020 pesos a share. However, its property unit still edging lower here by as much as 1.3% to 37 pesos and 70 centavos a piece. But one other stock fell big time today. That is Mega Wide. That's after the government finally shut the door on them and its partner GMR, dashing hopes of reclaiming their original proponent status for the NAIA rehabilitation project, which cost around 109 billion pesos. Now, in their filing, the developers said that they believe they have met all the government's requirements to undertake the project. They say, that they respect the decision and that they're now ready to move on to other projects of equal significance. Megawide ended the day with a 4.5% fall to 7 pesos and 51 centavos. But if it's any consolation here, it's not just local stocks experiencing dips today. Asia is bloody red across the board here. If you try to take a look at this chart here, a lot of the indices here, in fact, almost all indices here, ending the day lower here, keeping in step with the declines in U.S. futures. This as investors consider a possible delay in America's fiscal relief package. Investors likewise on the hunt for new catalysts to boost stocks or at least justify current valuations. South Korean shares here after a huge rise yesterday, underperforming today here, ending the day down by 2.1%. Chinese stocks likewise also experiencing a tumble here. The likes of Shanghai down 1.5%. Shenzhen also edging lower here, close to 2% here. Hong Kong rather, also lower after Tencent's market value neared $1 trillion for the first time yesterday. The Hang Seng, as you can see here, in the red here, down by as much as, look at this, slipping by 2.5%. So definitely the PSCI, after days of bucking the rally across Asia, now not a loner when it comes to dips as the rest of Asia slumps with the local bourse. Now, here are other stories from the corporate front. Lucia Tan's holding firm LT Group announced streamlining of operations in its cigarette business with its indirect subsidiary PMFTC entering into a merger with Philip Morris Manufacturing. PMFTC is an indirect subsidiary of the LT Group through Fortune Tobacco Corporation and is a Philippine affiliate of the U.S. cigarette giant Philip Morris. It will be the surviving corporation in the merger with its subsidiary, Philip Morris Manufacturing. The LT Group unit says in a disclosure that the merger is part of an internal restructuring process and is not seen to affect operations, earnings, and ownership of PMFTC. Now, LT Group posted a 9% increase in net income to 16 billion pesos as of end September last year, with its tobacco businesses accounting for three-fourths of the total. LT Group shares, however, are down over a three-fourths of a percent to 13 pesos and 10 centavos apiece this Tuesday. Now, RFM Corporation said its preliminary data for last year showed its consumer brands posted double-digit growth rates. Selecta fortified milk brand expanded 56% in 2020, while the Fiesta and Royal Pasta brands rose 44% and 16%. RFM added that its White King hotcakes and other bowl mixes rose 36% as consumers cooked more in their homes amid the pandemic-induced lockdown. RFM CEO Jose Maria Concepcion said the company eyes to continue controlling its expenses and capital expenditures as situations remain uncertain amid the pandemic. Now, Concepcion also noted that RFM has a strong balance sheet to support the continuation of the company's dividend policy and share buyback programs. Now, here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. The Basis Conversion and Development Authority has invited bidders for the design and construction of the first phase of the planned National Academy of Sports in New Clark City. The BCDA said the approved budget for the contract is 568 million pesos. Bidders who have completed similar sports-related projects as multi-sports gyms, stadiums, and arenas with a contract value of at least half of the approved budget are deemed eligible. The auction is also limited to Filipino citizens running sole proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, or joint ventures with at least 75% interest or capital stock belonging to Filipino citizens. Aspiring bidders must also hold a AAA construction license and a large B license classification with the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board. Construction work must be completed in 7 months according to the BCDA. The pre-bid conference will be on February 9, while the bid deadline will be on February 26. Now, the House Ways and Means Committee approved measures that will make tax filing easier to encourage taxpayers to pay their dues. In a virtual hearing on Monday, the panel approved the Ease of Paying Taxes Act and another amendment to the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997. Both measures seek easier compliance with requirements by simplifying the tax registration process as well as the filing of returns and tax payments. Aside from the streamlining of requirements and removal of registration fees, the proposed measures also create a taxpayer's Bill of Rights and establishes a taxpayer's advocate office. With the pandemic slowing down tax collection capacity, the BIR's tax effort reportedly eased 10.7% in 2020, with collections coming in lower by 11%. Does this warrant a rethinking of how tax payments should be made? To discuss that, we have Mona Brea, Chairman and Senior Tax Advisor over at Asian Consulting Group. Good afternoon, Mon. Great to have you here with us on the show.
Thank you, Jess, for having me.
All right, so let's kick things off with that bit of news. Tax collection decreased to 1.9 trillion pesos. That is a slump of 11%, but still higher, really, when you compare it to the agency's 2020 target. Is this an understandable output, or was it better than expected given the circumstances in 2020?
Well, definitely it is expected given the prolonged lockdown and the economic slowdown. And we are very happy that during the lockdown, the Bureau of Internal Revenue responded by making sure that all the online facilities will be available or were available to all taxpayers. That made it possible for them to collect taxes given the pandemic.
Okay, one silver lining, though, if you may call it that, you have 86% of total collections made in 2020 were, of course, through via online channels. Should we be expecting an even bigger share this year? And what might this mean for the agency's tax efforts?
Yes, we are expecting in 2021 more online payments, but also we hope that more banks will really provide online channels so that all depositors, all companies will be able to pay their taxes using their own bank online platforms.
Mhm. And what do you think has been so far the involvement here of the lending sector? What would your analysis be? Is there still a lacking in some regards, in some respects?
Yes, I think we really need to boost and assist the MSMEs when it comes to funding. And so when they get to deal with their debts and hit their targets, they will be able to contribute by paying their taxes. So I think there's a need to relax some regulations and make it a bit flexible so that more will be able to avail and benefit from the existing policies.
However, in terms of accessibility, especially for the uninitiated or especially for those living in rural areas, how do we expect them to actually also ride this ongoing trend when it comes to online taxation or
Well,
online filing of taxes?
as we have seen in the launch or the pilot projects of BIR, they make sure that they test it with the areas wherein there's really good internet service. For those with very poor internet service, the manual will always be available for our taxpayers. So it doesn't mean that there are electronic or online options that BIR is disregarding or not allowing manual transactions. It's just that it will expedite if it's available to the given area or region.
Now, Mon, speaking of digital services, you have this time around another lawmaker, this time from a party list, proposing taxing foreign companies providing digital services, noting a potential 10 billion peso revenue. This is nothing new, but still begs the question: are we ready for a tax on digital services?
I honestly think that it is a good idea, principle wise, since even the OECD or the Organization for Economic Cooperation Development has been studying this for all the countries, Europe, Asia, the rest of the world. Except that my apprehension there, Jess, is that I honestly think that the Congress in particular should increase the fundings of BIR in terms of their IT infrastructure before they jump into this digital economy. What we have seen during the pandemic is the increase in terms of online transactions, but in terms of government funding their own digital transformation, I honestly think there's a need to really, like for instance, for 2021, the Congress slashed the budget of BIR, their ISG, by at least 400 million. I think what they deserve or what they need is at least another 1 billion to make sure that the IT architecture or the blueprint of automation will not be seasonal or highly politicized. Whenever it's being discussed, there will be a project. But after the administration or whenever the president steps down, that IT project disappears together with the president. So what we need is a blueprint that will continue to escalate not just the infrastructure, but also the capacity of our BIR personnel. Honestly, Jess, at right now, almost all their IT projects are outsourced because they don't have in-house developers. And that worries me a lot. If we want to audit and get into digital economy, but we don't have our own IT experts in our government, then why would I help the government if I can make money without government intervening in my transaction? So I think before the Congress take this seriously, they have to make sure that the streamlining continues so that when they automate it, the Congress should be able to fund it. Because no matter how many IT strategy roadmap will discuss in Congress, if there is no sufficient funds, then BIR will always rely on United States for fundings or Japan, for instance. And it's kind of weird because ironic, I mean, because we prioritize it, but we don't fund it.
Okay, so for this time around, at least from your point of view, try to hold off on those plans for now, especially since the agency is still not yet within the right capacity to actually tax digital services. But how far along the road do you see the BRR at least being ready to actually come up with this particular service?
If we can expedite the digital transformation this year, I think slowly then the digital taxation can be studied. But my apprehension with the proposed digital taxation is that I doubt if it is well studied because I think it was just over a month or two that the proposal came about. And OECD has been discussing this among tax experts. We've been discussing this for the last 10 years or even so. And it will it worries me a lot that it might scare away some of these global companies who are also helping a lot of our Filipino live streamers, online companies, digital platforms to some extent. And I mean, I think there's a mismatch.
Mhm.
The government is talking about digital transformation, but it's yet to be funded and to be implemented. And yet they want to tax the digital economy, which I'm not sure if they fully understood. Do we have that competency to begin with? Do we have the facilities, the infrastructure? If the answer is yes, let's do it.
Mhm.
But
Okay, so
Congressman
further.
Salceda, if he will answer not sure, then we have to rethink if this is really a priority that we can implement.
Okay, so definitely, at least from your point of view, further study needed to really provide a better balance. Of course, you want to earn some revenue here for the government, but at the same time, you don't want to scare these businesses which actually also employ Filipinos or at least provide services to Filipinos. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Mona Brea, Chairman and Senior Tax Advisor over at the Asian Consulting Group. Thank you, Mon. And those are the biggest news this trading day, January 26, 2021. Catch Business World live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.